Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. I am found, I am yours, I am loved, I'm made pure, I have life, I can breathe, I am healed, I am free. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. 'Cause I am found, I am yours, I am loved, I'm made pure, I have life, I can breathe, I am healed, I am free. You are strong, you are sure, you are light, you endure, you are good, always true. You are light, breaking through. Oh, here's speak what is true. I am found, I am yours, I am loved, I'm made pure, I have life, I can breathe, I am healed, I am free. 'Cause you are strong, you are sure, you are light, you endure, and you are good, always true. You are light, breaking through. You So raise our voices and sing together. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart. my life.
Here's my life, Lord. Here's my life, Lord. Here's my life, Lord. See what is true.
Let's all take a nice deep breath with your hand on your heart. And allow yourself to just be connected to the music, to the words, to the intention, to your own intention, to truly open your heart and give your heart to God, to Spirit, to listen deep within yourself for your own intentions, your own desire to do better and be better, to pray harder and rise higher, to forgive steadily and love readily, regardless of circumstances, knowing that this is your intention, this is your path. Here's my heart, Lord. And as your path, you come together with your spiritual family on a night like tonight, knowing that you're sharing this path with mighty companions, kindred spirits, knowing that we're all reflections of one another, lovingly reminding ourselves and each other of the importance of seeing the beloved in one another, seeing the beloved even in ourselves. When we look in the mirror. Thank you. And as such, we can see ourselves as conduits of love in the world, as instruments of peace, as we set a daily 24-hour intention to wake up and say, I want to do better than yesterday. I want to be better. I want to be that Christ consciousness that allows me to see Christ in my brothers and my sisters. And on those days when we fail to rise, we just begin again. So tonight we begin again. We look into each other's eyes, into each other's hearts, and we lovingly give thanks for this opportunity to be together, to be a blessing to one another. So let's all take a nice deep breath. Exhale into the moment, being present. Happy Thursday, happy Holy Thursday. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. Just come in, relax, be present. Let the day go. Let your judgments, your fears, your issues, your problems, let's just all be completely focused on each other and on the words that we sang, that we want to offer our hearts. Today, I'm wearing my cap of hope. It's the pink ribbon. This is wrapping up the month of October, which was breast cancer awareness. And so I dedicate this to my mom and my youngest cousin, both of whom are no longer in the world. They died within 6 months of each other. And we used to go to the Relay for Life every year and, try to raise awareness around cancer issues, but breast cancer specifically in October. So we send a prayer out to anyone who is suffering or has suffered, who survived, who has died. Just take a moment to just bring them to mind. I know we all know someone, whether it's breast cancer or any disease. Let us today remember what the Course tells us, that we can see beyond the body, that we are not just this body, that we can find freedom beyond the physical realm. And yet we have the paradox of human life, right? The paradox is we want to hold on to who we love and what we love. We want to love fiercely, hold on tightly. And then the time comes when we have to let go in faith and trust of the truth of who they are, the essence of who they are, living on forever. So thank you for joining me in that prayer. I have an announcement. It's pretty important. which is that the next 2 months are going to be a little bit different. November and December, we're only meeting on the first and third Thursdays. First and third Thursdays only for live stream. So next Thursday is the first Thursday. So we will meet next Thursday. That's November 4th. So for your calendars, and for those of you who either get my newsletter or who get my daily text, I will be sending you a barrage of reminders that we only meet on the 1st and the 3rd. So the first Thursday in November is November 4th, and then the third Thursday is November 18th. And in between all that, we'll have our full moon gathering out on the beach. That's going to be on the 17th of November, which I think is a Wednesday. So there's still plenty of time and opportunities for us to be together in November.
Are you going to be posting an old thing from the archives on those other days, or no?
No, I'll post something. I'll have something there, a video of some sort, whether it's a Throwback Thursday. We might be running out of Throwback Thursdays because remember, the only time we had videos back in the day was when Shelley was visiting. You know, we didn't have ongoing. So, but everything that we've done since April of 2020 is already archived. But I will always put something on there for you to enjoy on the Thursdays that we're not meeting. So first and third Thursdays, the 4th and the 18th, and then the 17th for the open air ashram, which is where we meet out on the beach to do our full moon cleansing services. So, you know, a lot has happened in the past 2 weeks. And 2 weeks ago, I talked about my friend Joanna, who had passed away. And then last week, we talked about Judy Scutch, who passed away. Judy Scutch was the founder and publisher of the Foundation for Inner Peace and the Foundation of Inner Peace Blue Book, which is the majority use book. And so then this week, I sent you guys a video on your Mwats. Those of you who are my daily text, I sent out a video of Judy Scutch and doing a webinar talking about her experience with Bill and Helen and Ken and how she got involved and all of that. It's a really great, if you haven't had a chance to watch it, it's about an hour, and in that video there's an interview with Helen Schuckman. So it's really priceless, you know, because you've got the two of them there. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what was in that video, if you didn't watch it, because I thought it was some really interesting stuff. First, you know what? First I want to talk about Joanna. I spoke at Joanna's memorial. Joanna Gabriel, my friend who passed away. She, let me see there we go, that's Joanna. You guys know Joanna, right? She had these wishes and essays that she was writing since 2016 for her family. And so this is one that they published for the memorial. It says, "From what my family needs to know," written in March 2016. So she's quoting someone else initially. She says, "A woman named Brooke Hampton wrote, 'I am pieces of all the places I have been and the people I have loved. I have been stitched together by song lyrics, book quotes, adventures, late night conversations, moonlight, and the smell of coffee.'" And then Joanna says, "When I read this, I thought, that's me. My soul is a witness to my evolutions, transformations, and the shaping and forming of who I am. Native of Toledo, Ohio, from a family of singers and ministers, from an early age, I've had a heart for poetry, dialogue, imaginings, and the gospel message through word and song. I have a theology of song in which I see music as a metaphor for life and proclaiming the good news as an expression of life. I would like to be remembered as a soul that has come to be a witness. I would like to be remembered as an enthusiastic encourager, a giver of unconditional love, and a zestful peacemaker. I believe that a bell is not a bell until it's rung, a song is not a song until you sing it, and a love is not love until you give it away. My life's work has been to unfold like a flower, radiate and ignite love in the hearts of many people so that love helps them live with zest and fullness." And she did indeed. That was certainly her. And she was one of those friends that I could confide in of the times in which I wasn't my best, and times I wasn't showing up as my best. And I can remember one incident specifically where I called her and I was upset about something, but I was more upset about myself. I was upset about the fact that I was upset about something. And so I called her and I was confiding in her, and she had this like real deep, hearty laugh, you know, and she's like laughing on the other end. And she said, oh, well, let me tell you what I did. And then she's like, gave me a comparable story. You know, it was like, you're not alone in the world of whatever it is you go through. And she called anybody she liked, she called sister girl. She goes, now, sister girl, you are only human. You are only human. And you're more mad at yourself than God is of you. And so she was always that person that you could go and talk to, and she would let you know that you're okay, but also that she gets it on a level that is just as human as you are. So it was a wonderful relationship to have, and a wonderful reminder when I read at her memorial about how she had this desire to be a reflection in the world of goodness and joy through song. And she was a great singer. She used to sing at the end of all our podcasts. We did that podcast for many years. So I brought that up because there's this idea in A Course in Miracles that's continuously trying to remind us that we need to see ourselves and each other as innocent. But we generally have the judgment out and the judgment back. And sometimes the judgment inside is even harsher and harder than the judgment outside. You know, we have our upset. We can unpack what an upset looks like. You know, I'm upset about something, but then I'm upset with myself because I got upset, or maybe because of the way I acted in my upset. And so there's this whole, you know, shame spiral and stuff that goes on that we have to come back to what the Course is telling us, to try and really have faith in what the Course is telling us, is that we are forgiven, and that we have to forgive ourselves, and we have to forgive each other. So back to Judy Scutch. So Judy Scutch tells the story, which I was so happy she was telling these stories, because it just showed, like, even though they were channeling, scribing, and compiling this amazing modern day classic, that they were just like regular folk. You know, they were just regular folk. They were arguing. They argued about the cover. There's some people to this day that have the black and gold cover that Helen originally wanted. The publication went blue. That was like a big discussion. That was like a big thing, arguing and carrying on. So she tells in this webinar where she's doing a lot of talking about her experience, she kind of glosses over this. If you heard it, she says, well, we didn't know how we were going to have the funds to publish it, and then they got funded by a millionaire from Mexico who had heard about them. He was, his name, and so of course I had to, because she didn't say who he was, so I had to do my research, and I found his name was Reed Erickson. He was in Mazatlan, Mexico, and he was a philanthropic funder. You know, he was funding programs that he believed were putting for best use of human potential. He was born in 1917. He died in 1992 at the age of 74. I think it's important to know who he was, because if it hadn't been for him, the funding did not exist. They didn't know how they were going to get the funding, and this guy funded the entire first publication. But here's another interesting thing. Just because I just thought it was, who knows these things? 1917, he was born, you ready for this? He was born Rita Alma Erickson. He's a transvestite. I mean, a transsexual. He's a trans man. Back in those days, like in the 60s, he was a trans. And so a lot of the funding he did was for the LGBTQ community, and to do research so that people who were going through the transition of gender transitions were treated fairly and got good medical care. Who knew? This is an interesting little trivia point there. So anyway, yeah, Rita Alma Erickson. Anyway, so she tells the story about one day Bill Thetford was upset with Ken Wapnick. And so he went over to Judy's house, and he's just like, you know, pacing the floor, and he's been upset like all night. You know, he's just been like really upset about something that Ken did. And he was, and he was trying to, like, you know, formulate his argument, and he was telling her, you know, all this stuff so that she would be on his side, and he even called some friends over to back him up, because, you know, Ken was he was a very strong player in this whole thing, and he was kind of making a lot of decisions. So Bill even called some friends. Don't we do that? Don't we do that? I'm upset with somebody, so I need to call everybody and let you know. Oh, I need you to be on my side. I need you to agree with me that this person's wrong. So he did that, and this is Bill Thetford, who's already practicing and applying what he's learning through scribing what Helen's written. And in fact, this is already done, right? The manuscript is complete. So she said, well, why don't we turn to A Course in Miracles and see what it tells us? And A Course in Miracles tells us time and time again to take it to the Holy Spirit, right? So they decide to sit down and pray, and they're praying, Holy Spirit, help me to see this differently. Help me to see this differently. I just want to see it differently. And she said a transformation just came over Bill. The doorbell rings, and she's like, uh-oh, here we go. The fight's going to start. And she said, Bill got up, opened the door, and hugged Ken's. Oh, it's so good to see you. Let's come on in. Everything went fine. Like they had a nice conversation, but it was that willingness to surrender the ego, the upset, to really put into practice the idea that when we're upset and we're judging and we're trying to get other people to agree with us on our upset, that it's not the view that the Holy Spirit wants us to take. The Holy Spirit doesn't want us to make our upset so precious. Our judgments aren't precious. Our beloved is precious. Our brother, our sister, that's what's precious. And so he was able to transform in the course of a short period of time. And then all his friends are there like, what happened? We were going to argue with you, but everything is about our willingness to truly get into a mindset of forgiveness. And it might take a while, but if we're rigorously honest with ourselves, we can get to that inner understanding that our upset and our forgiveness needs to start with ourselves. Because if we weren't triggered, we wouldn't have gotten upset in the first place. If we didn't have judgment, if we didn't have whatever it is we're projecting out, then we wouldn't have that upset in the first place. So the forgiveness, and that's one of the things, of course, always comes back to, is forgive yourself first. Forgive yourself and extend that forgiveness out to your brothers and your sisters. So then I was like really into the whole history and getting to know a little bit more about what's going on. So then I was watching another video that was between Judy Skutch and Gerald Jampolsky. You all know Gerald Jampolsky was the founder of the Center for Attitudinal Healing. And he based his entire work on Course in Miracles. He had a medical approach, he was a medical doctor, but he did everything through his learning of A Course in Miracles. So here's where it gets a little juicy. Judy and Gerald Jampolsky had an affair. Did everybody know that?
He was married?
No, he was single, she was married.
Oh, okay.
He had gone through a divorce. They met as colleagues. This could be like a daytime drama. They met as colleagues because they were both working in psychology and parapsychology and doing all the research, and they met. And she said, and they're sitting there talking to each other, and he's almost not, this was right before he died, So they're very open about it. Pardon me?
Jampolsky, didn't he just die recently?
He just died, like 2 months ago.
So you said this is just before he died?
Yeah, this is, no. The interview, not the affair. No. The interview is took place right before he died, and you can tell he's very old, very feeble. He has a hard time talking, but they're holding hands, and they're both very open about it. So let me go back to the story. So she's saying that they met in professionally, and they had this. They fell in love. And he was just divorced. She was still married. So she and he meet Helen and Bill and Ken, and they become a part of this this quadrant of collaborators putting the book together. And she decides that she wants to be the publisher of that whole thing. But in the meantime, they're still having an affair, right? And she's still married. So there's a point at which she says, you know what, if we really want to be good students of this course, I need to be I need to be more honest. I need to, I need to divorce my husband or whatever. So she goes away and she calls Helen one day and she says, you know what, I'm just going to let Jerry go, and I want him to move on. And so Helen says, really? So you want him to move on? So if he comes to the house with a younger woman and he's falling in love with someone else, you're going to be okay with that? And she goes, oh no, I would scratch your eyes out. And I thought, oh my God, Judy, you're just like a regular person, And she said it was tumultuous and mean, and they were door slamming and they were fighting all the time because their relationship was based on expectations, criticisms, and judgments, right? And the reason they're telling the story and they're so open about it is because they want people to understand the difference between a special relationship and a holy relationship. And that this was a special relationship in the sense, the way the Course tells us, is that they were taking out their frustrations on each other. Here they're saying, we're having this love affair, we love each other, but at the same time, she said she was very critical, she was easily upset with him because she was upset with herself. She was upset with herself because she was cheating on her husband.
It was lust. Lust does that.
Say it again?
Lust does that.
Lust.
Yeah.
Well, anything that gets imbalanced, right? Any kind of passion that gets imbalanced. So she was very open about that. And then it turns out that like Helen and Bill and Ken, they all knew about it, but they continue to apply the principles. And it's just like we are all in this quagmire of life, and there's stuff that happens. And if these folks who were the foundation of A Course in Miracles and lived the rest of their lives applying it in such a dedicated way, if they can be so open and honest about their frailties and their missteps and the bumps in the road, then we can also be kind and compassionate and forgiving of ourselves. And I just love that you told this story. I love that they were both so open about it. Gerald went on to marry Diane, who they were together up until the day he died. And she went on to remarry too. She divorced her first husband and she went on to remarry. And then, they were all very good friends. They were all very happy. Everybody was open and honest about what happened. And it was a transformation. She said, it was initially, fits of rage and just, she said, just such upset. But they spent time allowing the transformation to take place. And they got to where they truly believed they had a holy relationship. And that was the reason why their spouses were okay with them being friends, is because they knew that it had been transformed. And toward the end of his life, and she says it in the video, actually, with him there, that previous to this video taking place, this interview, he had called her like maybe 5 or 6 months earlier and said, I want to come over every Thursday to do the lesson with you and, talk about it. Every Thursday, like us. And she said, well, just you and me, her husband had passed away. So he said, just you and me, what about your wife, Diane? What about Diane? He said, no, you and I started together, and now I'm coming to the end, so we're going to end together. Aww. Yeah, and so they said it was like truly a holy relationship, truly a blessing. And so tonight is a 2-song night, because I wanted to tell those stories with the reminder that we have to be able to look at ourselves and look at each other as long as it takes to do it, to be able to see ourselves as someone who is being shined upon by God's love, God's light. And that shining upon you is not for you to then look at yourself poorly and with judgment, but to remember who you truly are. We shine a light on ourselves to do our work and say, I need to do a little work here, I need to do a little work there. That's being honest and making our corrections. The Course says it's not about sin, it's about mistakes that need correction, right? We're raising our awareness. So we want to see each other as these opportunities to shine and to be shined upon. So I want to play the song for you. Ben and I went to a worship service that had this song, and I thought that I had done a class here with the concept of being shadowless, but then I went through all the songs on the playlist, which is over 300 now, and I couldn't find it. So I said, well, I'll play it tonight. So I want you to listen to this song with this idea, with this concept of you being shadowless. That you don't have to constantly, maybe you did your work, oh yeah, I got this little shadow area that I need to work on. Okay, that's one thing, but it's not to beat yourself up, it's not to make yourself the bad guy, and it's not to make someone else the bad guy. It's the opportunity for you to look within and to see that you are a beloved child of God, that whoever you're looking at is a beloved child of God. So this song, imagine if you, wherever you are, close your eyes, listen to the words. It's as if God is speaking to you. It's just listen to it and take it in, and God is speaking to you that you are shadowless, right? It's kind of a term we throw around, my shadow, your shadow. Well, still, we're judging ourselves, we're being hard on ourselves. We're willing to look, we're willing to make corrections, we're willing to grow. But we don't need to get stuck on whatever it is we think is labeling a negative aspect of ourselves. Because if God's not doing it, why are we going to do it? So let's see this song. I invite you to just take a nice deep breath, close your eyes, listen to it. It's got a nice beat to it. You can take this off. It's got a nice beat to it. You might want to do a little dance in your chair and enjoy this. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Do you see? Tell me, what do you taste? Tell me, what do you hear when I whisper your name? You see through my eyes and turn me away. In madness you spiral. If I did the same, oh my love, I'm waiting. Oh my love, I'm cold. Oh my love, I'm yearning. I shine, but you're shadowless. Don't see me, shadowless. I can be shadowless. Don't see me. I shine, but you're shadowless. Don't see me, shadowless. I can be shadowless. Don't see me. I shine, but you're shadowless. Memories you took, like grapes of the vine. It said trust and sweetness with you all the time. Tasted my love and turned me away. Your tears would make oceans if I did the same. Shadowless, don't see me. Shadowless, 'cause I can be shadowless. Don't see me. I shine, but you're shadowless. Don't see me. Shadowless, 'cause I can be shadowless. Don't see me. I shine, but you're shadowless. You think you can see me, you think you can hear me. If you ever need me, know that my love is in my cups, found us, waiting there for you. You think you can see me, you think you can hear me. If you ever need me, know that my love is in my cups, found us. I shine, but you're shadowless. Don't see me, shadowless. 'Cause I can be shadowless. Don't see me. I shine, but you're shadowless. Don't see me, shadowless. 'Cause I can be shadowless. Don't see me. I shine, but you're shadowless.
So just imagine, just imagine on those days that you're just beating yourself up and you're like, oh, but I'm so bad and I've done so many bad things and I just need to keep reminding myself and reminding you or reminding someone else. Not just yet, please. I'll go to the next item. Thank you. And God's like, well, but I think you're shadowless. You're shadowless. It's okay. You're shadowless. If we can see ourselves and others, imagine the peace we could have, the deep peace we could have. So it's all a matter of that continuous work on forgiveness, forgiving ourselves. Let's see where we are. Here we go. I think this is it. There we go. Pam, we're good now. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Tanzu is not here. She's our technical support person. So we've got Pam as she's the rookie. She's the apprentice. Thank you. So when I heard that song, it reminded me of this. This was back in chapter 18, and it just came to my mind. I said, I want to go back and look at that again. Page 384 in the text. You don't have to look so much for it because it's going to be just a moment of quoting here. So it says when you're having those upsets between you and another person, or if it's just even between you and yourself, and looking in the mirror and just continuously forgetting the importance of your self-forgiveness, your self-love, so that you can be an instrument of forgiveness and love out there. You're not going to be able to do that if you have not yet done it within yourself. So it says, it's talking about an upset here. It says, whoever is saner at the time. So, I love that the Course recognizes that we act a little insane. It wouldn't put, pardon me?
That makes me love that word. I can accept that word, the insanity of it all.
Right. Well, somebody said that the earth is the insane asylum of the universe, right? So we act insanely. How do we act insanely? We act insanely when we're projecting and in our rage, like Judy's rage, right? Like when we're in our upset and we haven't done our too deep healing work so that we're not so triggered. And of course, it's saying, well, okay, then when you do that, let's take a step back. And whoever is saner at the time should remember how deep is his indebtedness to the other, and how much gratitude is due him, and be glad that he can pay his debt by bringing happiness to both. I mean, what a great opportunity to realize that when you're in your upset, and you're upset with that other person, that there is a spiritual perspective that says, how about you find a way within yourself to be glad that you can now be a blessing because you are healing something within yourself. And it says, can you say this to this person? Maybe not out loud, but certainly within your heart. I desire this holy instant for myself that I may share it with my brother whom I love. It is not possible that I can have it without him or he without me. Yet it is wholly possible for us to share it together now. And so I choose this holy instant as the one to offer to the Holy Spirit, that his blessing may descend upon us and keep us both in peace. Wow. I mean, what a great opportunity to get your sanity back, to regain your sanity. Now, if the other person has, slammed the door and walked out, and they're never to be seen again, you just got to say this to yourself in your heart, because you may not have the opportunity to say this to somebody else. You may not have the opportunity to use your own words, to ask the other person to pray for the opportunity to be a blessing to one another, to reach this level of understanding that I choose this instant as the one to offer. Let us choose this instant to offer to the Holy Spirit, that his blessing may descend upon us and bring us both peace. Wow, what a way to turn an argument around. My spiritual director, Randy Levine, always says that a fight is like a bell ringing, and you listen to that bell as if it's a church bell and take it to prayer. Like, take it around. A lot of us can't do that when we're in the middle of the upset, but we can certainly do the repair. One of the greatest opportunities we have as human beings is to repair. Remember, we talked about that a few weeks ago. We have to do repair where we can, what's within our reach. And sometimes the only thing within our reach is our hearts, because maybe there's nobody else to talk to. Maybe they've passed on or they've moved on. So we still have this opportunity to find it within our hearts, to find this holy instant as one that I give to the Holy Spirit, so that I don't imprison you and I don't imprison me.
I actually don't even think the person physically is important at all.
Because the work is within yourself.
Because the only thing that matters is my own perception of that person.
Well,
And,
Ben,
I mean, it's nice to have, you know, you can, to manifest it, but really, because a person cannot be there at all and have as much negative impact as somebody who's there in the room. So it really is, that's what I think.
yeah, you make a very good
Not
point,
that
because
you can really create some
Right.
scenarios in your head. you know.
because ultimately the work is within ourselves.
Mhm.
You know, because that person may not have anything to do with the fact that we got upset in the first place. You know, they're just triggering something within us that is still triggerable.
Well, and it's like, you know, when you're this is diminished for me a lot, but you know, you see it with people, you know, when you're driving, if you get mad at somebody that cuts you off,
Oops.
like that, the thing about that that's so insane is the person that cuts you off has no fucking idea who
Right.
you are.
Right. It's not personal.
They don't know who you
It's
are.
not right.
Yet internally it feels so personal.
Right.
Or it can feel so personal. But that's nutso. Right?
Well-
Because they don't know.
That's a great example.
Are you willing to see it differently? Are you willing to see it? You know, it's so funny because I was riding with a friend. You brought up a really good example because I was in a friend's car and we were like enjoying it, the top down, and the radio was blasting, and we were headed out to the beach, and we were talking, and she was telling me that she was, you know, generally a peaceful person, and I believe she is, you know, but then somebody, I guess she cut somebody off without realizing it, and the person like came around and was yelling and came around her and cut her off and was like yelling out the window. And next thing I know, she was like yelling back, and I'm like, whoa, what happened to our peace? You know, but it was so instant. It's like she just got something, you know, the flipping your lid, right? There's something that did not occur between him and her in terms of space, in terms of that space. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create space between the trigger and the reactivity. And the more we can do that, the more we can create that space, the more willing we are to take a breath instead of make a shout. And use the bad finger instead of the good finger. Good finger's like, okay, it's okay, God bless you. So, okay, so then there was another prayer I wanted to share with you after unpacking an upset, right? You're unpacking the upset. I got triggered. I got upset. Now, I can talk as much as I want about the other person. I can call all my friends, just like Bill Thetford called all his friends to come over to be mad at Ken Wapnick with him. But then he unpacked it. He looked at it. He asked to see it differently. Are we willing to see it differently? And this is something else we can say. Again, doesn't have to be with the actual person, but it can be with our image of the person, our feelings for the person, and our not so good feelings, especially. I give you to the Holy Spirit as part of myself. I know that I will be released and you will be released unless I want to use you to imprison myself.
Right.
In the name of my freedom, I choose your release because I recognize that we will be released together. I know that you will be released unless I want to use you to imprison myself. Wow, it's profound recognition and realization that we are one. We are one. If I am going to imprison you and I'm really not imprisoning, like you said, the other person may not even know that you're upset. If I'm trying to guilt you, shame you, make you be something other than you're not, I'm imprisoning myself. I'm shutting that prison door into me, into my own self. And I also wanted to share from this week, we had this lesson that's sort of in line with tonight's talk. It was lesson number 295. This is what we're aiming for, is to be the voice of Spirit. To be the eyes, to be the voice. To be the representation. Christ asked that he may use my eyes and thus redeem the world. He asks this gift that he may offer peace of mind to me and take away all terror and pain. And as they are removed from me, the dreams that seem to settle on the world are gone. Let's go down to the prayer. Let's say this together, whoever has the book. My Father, Christ has asked a gift of me, and one I give that it be given me. Help me to use the eyes of Christ today, and thus allow the Holy Spirit's love to bless all things which I may look upon, that his forgiving love may rest on me. And when his forgiving love rests on me, it extends to you. If I can rest within myself, if I can forgive myself, if I can see myself as shadowless, then my eyes will be transformed and I'll see you differently. So we're working on that, right? It's the work that we're doing to try and do better and be better, pray harder, rise higher, forgive steadily, love readily. Yes, Stephanie, Reverend Stephanie.
I'm so grateful for my study of A Course in Miracles and my study with Sacred Journey Interfaith Seminary, because I was able to do this after my dad passed. About 6 weeks later, whatever, my brother, I texted you a little bit about this, but my brother got very angry with me for something that it just seemed like it was just totally out of the blue, and I was so distraught. I felt like I was going through another death. And the thing is, when he started yelling at me on the phone, my old self the thoughts came to me that I wanted to defend myself.
Yeah.
And I wanted to attack him back. But I was able to keep my mouth shut, and I just kept saying, "You're kidding. You're kidding. You sure this is what you want to?" And, he kept at, and then, but I tell myself, and then I said, "Look, I have to get off the phone." I was so distraught. And I went down to the pool, and I was running it. I could not shut my mind. My mouth just was running it, and I was so angry. And I said, "Wait a second. I lost my connection with God. This is not right, And then I was like, "So how do I do it? How do I get it back?" To make a long story a bit longer, through a period of time, I just kept working on it and asking for guidance, and the upshot was, after a number of emails, I realized that I had not really ever shared with my brother everything I had gone through, my deep, deep distress, which wasn't a bad thing that I didn't share it, but I wrote him a very loving and honest note telling him I was really suffering from PTSD. He really had no idea, and I said, "I don't blame you for not knowing, because I didn't share that. When I spoke with you, I made everything nice and whatever." And it was just an honest, and then I didn't hear from him for a few days, and I was like, "Okay, well, what are you gonna do?" And then he called me, and he said, "Thank you for reaching out." And he said, "So, do you want to talk about it, or should we just move on from here?" And then before I could say a word, he said, "So we'll just move on from here." And I thought that was fine, but it was such a relief that I hadn't given in
to your initial upset.
Right.
To retaliate, the desire to retaliate.
Oh my God, it was so strong. I lived my life that way for decades.
Yeah.
And what I really do think is that was his grief over my dad's passing that he was trying to deal with in a way that wasn't really, accurate or whatever.
Yeah, and there's
it was a relief, from my heart. That's when I felt I started to heal after that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much in terms of family dynamics that seem to linger through our lifetimes, a whole lifetime, if not multiple lifetimes. But doing the work, when you can, they always say, you can see how spiritually evolved you are when you spend time with your family on the holidays. But the idea of being able to recognize I'm about to counterattack, I'm about to be upset with him, and then you stepped away from it.
I'll tell you,
stepped away.
I was really ashamed of myself when I saw that anger in me. I was really disappointed. It's true, like you said about the shadow stuff, I was so disappointed that I still could go there. But at least I didn't, well, in my mind, you know, I didn't say anything to him, but, so I had to reel it back in, but it was part of my growth.
And then were you happy with yourself after, when you realized that you had
So
transformed?
glad.
So glad.
So glad I had this self-control.
Yeah. That's what, you
I would
know.
like to get to the point though where I don't, I know, but I would like to get to the point where I'm not reactive like that.
Yeah,
you know,
I know exactly what you're saying, because I feel good each time that I'm triggered in going somewhere, going off the rails. I'm triggered by it far more often now than I ever was. But I remember one time, Ben, you said something about you must judge people 100 times a day.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And I took that
Thank you for
right into my
reminding me.
head. My pleasure. So, but I
We
took
all
that
do.
to my heart, and I started realizing just how much I judge, just in the most idiotic ways.
Constantly.
You
And that's
know,
the wonderful
Just,
thing
who
about,
would ever buy a car that color as it's
well, that's the
driving
wonderful
by?
thing about the practices, is we're raising our vigilance. We're raising our vigilance to ourselves. And as we do that, we find ourselves communicating differently.
Yeah.
Without the supposition or the assumption that this is going to be a fight, this is going to go bad. You know, you've already put yourself in a mindset of non-attack, non-judgment. Let me talk to you differently. And people hear the difference. They hear the difference. They feel the difference. They can appreciate the difference. Especially if you had a history, you know, if you had a history of fighting all the time and speaking to each other in a particular way, and now you're speaking differently. It's wonderful to see the transformation within ourselves. That doesn't mean we still don't have our days of, you know, falling off the path.
But the
If Judy
awareness
Scudge can
becomes
fall off the path,
more frequent.
Pardon me?
The awareness for me has become
the real,
more frequent.
right.
And so I can at least, like you had to say, I gotta hang up the phone. Not you, whatever, you know. And you just knew, I can't continue this way. It's not gonna come out well. And
Exactly.
Well, we have-
even if you go crazy in your head after you hang up, at least you hung up.
Right.
And you can go crazy in your head and you haven't said anything to anybody, you know, just.
Right.
The wonderful thing about this course is that it is a provider of a wake-up call. It's
Right.
constantly, we can go back to it any day, you know, and remember that when we do have those days where we're tripping up, whether it's in our heads or in real life, that we can go back to this. We can open it up to any page, any lesson, and remind ourselves that I can see peace instead of this, but I don't feel peaceful right now, so I need to call upon my higher holy self. I need help in being able to see it differently.
I also just want to say that for me personally, I think there's a big difference between acting out or dealing with family members versus anybody else. I really do. I really do. I mean, and so I'm saying this to you, Stephanie, because I think that you have, you know, to give yourself, like there's a big difference between having a deep argument with a coworker, which you really, I think, can work on in a different way.
More
with-
controlled, not so triggered.
Because the family, as they say in recovery, you know, they're the ones who installed the buttons, you know, and they know how to push them. So, and they do. So I just think that family, like there's family members, which is a whole one island, and then there's everybody, there's everybody else. So I sort of give myself a little bit of more of a pass, because that's very long-ranging work.
It is long-ranging work and it's deep work. And there's one thing that came to me that I just remembered. Jason Glass used to say this. He used to say, if you know, when you get together with certain family members or certain people, that you know that there's something in there that could become volatile, he said, it's like you have a gun, they have a gun, don't give them the bullet. Don't give them the bullet. So we have to raise our awareness enough so that we know we're going to be triggered by the family and person, and so we don't want to engage in a way that will bring them even further into the fire. You know, we're trying to be rescued from the fire. You know, like the song says, you know, not the fire, we're being rescued.
It's 7:56 now.
So we're going to end with this other song. I said it's a 2-song night. The second song I just heard recently, and it's long, but I'll cut it off. I won't let it run on forever. It's called Jahira. And Jahira is a quality of God, God as provider. And we have this provider that can help us to see things differently, to make a greater commitment toward this path of changing ourselves, changing so that it's not just an altered state, but we're going for altered traits. We're changing those traits within us that used to be reactive. We might still have those days. We all have to bless ourselves and bless each other.
What language is Jahara?
Jahara is Hebrew.
Hebrew?
Yeah, but the song is in English. The song will be in English. The
I
song
was
is in English.
wondering where it came from.
So yeah, it's from the Hebrew scriptures. So hang out for a little while, because after the song we'll have some final words. I got a pen. No worries.